Hi, everybody. I am Layla, your host for today. I'm partnership manager at Calmary, and today we are going to be talking about resilience, crisis, suicide prevention, and the kind of hope that is born through lived experience. So, meet our speakers. First, we are joined by Lisa Sugarman, a writer, mental health advocate, and a three-time survivor of suicide loss. She is a crisis counselor with the Trevor Project, a storyteller with NAMI, and the creator of the Help Hub, an incredible free resource for anyone in need of tools, crisis hotlines, or support for their mental well-being. Lisa also co-hosts the Survivor podcast, a beautiful space dedicated to turning personal grief into powerful conversations around healing and suicide loss. You can check it out on Apple Podcasts or follow them on Instagram at the Survivors Podcast. Lisa also leads a Safe Place, a virtual support group for the people who have lost someone to suicide. She is the author of multiple books, including How to Raise Perfectly Imperfect Kids and Life It Is What It Is. Lisa, I'm so grateful you are here today, and I truly feel lucky to know you. Next, we have Gretchen Schoser, who many of you may know as the G-Rex, the vibrant, bold, compassionate host of the award-winning podcast Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. Gretchen's story is one of the strengths through vulnerability. On Christmas Day 2022, she's experienced a severe mental health crisis and called 988. The moment changed everything. She turned that pain into the purpose, launching her podcast in 2023, and since then, it's reached over 1 million downloads, listeners in over 60 countries, and multiple mental health podcast awards. She is also the founder of the Chooser Talent and Wellness Solutions, where she helps organizations create mentally healthy workplaces. Gretchen, thank you so much for being here. You have created such a powerful space for healing, and I'm so honored to share this one with you today. So, I guess we could start. And today I want to start from the topic emotional triggers and crisis moments. And my first question will be for Lisa. You have experienced deep personal loss and made it your life's work to support others through it. Why do emotional charged moments like anniversaries, quiet weekends, or unexpected stress often amplify feelings of grief or suicidal thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you think about these milestone moments, you think about these anniversaries and these birthdays and these life events that we want so desperately to be sharing with our people, with the people who we've lost. It's traumatic to think about experiencing these things without our people. It's hard when we're in a situation where all you want to do is have that person by your side, and then you have to navigate those experiences alone. And it's sad, and it can trigger an incredible amount of emotion and an incredible amount of pain and sadness. So we all have to do what we can do to try and navigate those moments in the most compassionate way we possibly can.
Great, thank you. And my next question will be for Gretchen. Gretchen, you have been open about your crisis moment unfolded in a high emotion period. How do you personally navigate these triggers moments when they resurface?
Funny you should ask that. So for me, what I try and do is I circle back to what my therapist taught me to do. I'm an empath and an extrovert. There's a lot of times I need to just put my shield up and protect myself. I also do a lot of journaling. If I am in a very triggering situation, I try and find a way to pull back from that. It's a lot easier said than done, but also like opening up my mouth. As a extrovert, I mask my depression well and I will take it, take it, take it. But in the last 2 years, I haven't done that as much. And I really now vocalize when I'm unhappy or when something is bothering me. And I think that's really important for extroverts to do, is for us to really start speaking up instead of internalizing all that, because what it does is it ends up hurting us more than it does helping us.
Thank you. And I also have one more question to you, Gretchen. I'm really interested to know. Through your podcast, you have given others space to share too. And what have you learned from your guests about managing those intense emotional waves?
Oh, wow, that's such a great question. Everybody has their own healing process. For some of our guests, it's laughing, like laughing at the situation. Laughter is a natural healer. For other guests, it's retreating, but they're getting better about that. And remembering to hold space for yourself, you're neglecting the thing that needs to be taken care of. And our a lot of our guests have said that just by talking about it, they felt better. Instead of holding that all in, being honest with themselves, being honest with their friends and their family, what's really going on. And it's really hard, especially when you can't find a voice for that emotion that you're feeling.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Thank you for sharing it. And it's really sometimes could be lacking that could help you out. Right now, I want to talk to both of you about recognizing the signs in ourselves and others. And I want to talk about the moments when things get quiet, like too quiet. What are some subtle signs that someone might be struggling with suicidal thoughts, even if they're not saying it out loud?
That's that's a big one, and I'm so glad that we're talking about this because there are a lot of people out there who don't know what to be looking for. And especially like Gretchen said, and we talk about quite often on our own podcast, The Survivors, it's those extroverted people who you really have to be paying extra attention to because you don't often see the signs. Some of the signs that someone might be thinking about harming themselves or ending their own life could be withdrawing, could be giving things away, could be saying things like, you won't have to worry about me for much longer. There are lots of different signs and signals. And I think Gretchen would probably agree too that for a lot of people, they stop caring about their job. They stop caring about relationships. They stop caring about their physical appearance and things like hygiene. And I think that it becomes everybody's responsibility to check in on each other, to kind of have one eye open toward our people as often as we possibly can, just to ensure that we're not missing any of those signs, because some of them are obvious and some of them are not.
And I can just say from my own point of view as a suicide attempt survivor, I checked out. I completely checked out. And nobody really recognized it. They thought, "Oh, it's just seasonal depression," which I suffer from. But I stopped giving a crap about a lot of things, and I was just taking in everybody else's stuff, but not really recognizing what was going on in myself. You also might find that they're drinking a little bit more than they should, or that they're buying a lot of expensive gifts, or that they're a bit more short than they would be typically. It's a whole lot of things. Like for me, I just checked out. I didn't do anything. I didn't put up any Christmas decorations. I didn't want to celebrate any holidays. And it was really difficult for me. I was really, really low.
And looking inward, what are those personal red flags we should pay attention to in ourselves?
I think when your inner voice, your inner dialogue turns maybe hopeless or turns cruel in some ways, like we have a lot of negative self-talk that we all deal with on different levels in different ways. Maybe it's about our work performance. We're hard on ourselves. We say we're not doing a good job. We could have done better. We should have done things differently. We do that about our personalities too. I'm not enough. We hear that from a lot of people. I'm not worthy. Um, I'm unlovable, things like that. When you start noticing those narratives and those voices playing out in your head, something's off, something's not right. And that's when it becomes important to start really reaching out and really talking to the people around you who you trust to voice those things so that it gives you a little bit of perspective, because sometimes something hits different when you say it to another person. And then it also allows the people around you to know that you're not okay. And you can eventually, hopefully, find a point of connection and be able to help yourself by sharing what's going on with other people.
And also remember when you're having that negative self-talk, would you talk to your friends the way that you're talking to yourself? Keep yourself in check. Asking for help. There's nothing wrong in asking for help. just be nicer to yourself. And when you find that you're not being nice to yourself, that's when you really need to start checking in with your friends and check in with your loved ones so they have a clue of what's going on inside. Because if we don't open up, nobody can help us.
Yeah, that's really it. And I really love your point about would you talk like that with your like best friend or friend, like you talking to yourself. That's really great point to like ask yourself and to point that when you're like in a thoughts that's really cruel to yourself. Thank you for sharing your point of view. And as we are going through, I want to talk about some tools to ground and get through it. And firstly, Lisa, you have lived through unimaginable pain and still found ways to stay grounded. Were there any small practices or moments that helped you keep going on your hardest days?
Definitely, definitely, and I really appreciate the question because I'm not the only one in the world who has gone through this type of loss. There are over 93 million people every year who are in some way touched by suicide loss, whether you've experienced the loss yourself or you know someone who has taken their life or attempted. So there's a huge population out there. And for me, I know what helps is very individual, depends on the person, but for me, I think talking about what was going on in my head and the fears that I had or the triggers that I had or the sadness that I had, that to me was the change agent for being able to move from that place of deep, deep grief, kind of paralyzing grief, to a point where I could function again and I could find a way to integrate things like grief and joy back into my life and have them coexist. I do other things too. Like I have a very, very strong self care practice. I do a ton of journaling. Gretchen and I talk about that all the time, that we both have very dedicated journaling practices. And I offload a lot of what's going on in my head. I have the ability to process it when I put it on paper and I see it in front of me. I also think that talking to a therapist was just monumental for me as a human to be able to process the things that I was dealing with. Because you've got, if you're lucky, people in your life, whether it be a partner or a spouse or family member, who can be there for you. What that relationship allows you to do is different than what a relationship with a therapist can provide. They can provide a different kind of insight and training and reflection that maybe the people who are closest to you can't. So I would say talking about it both in general, just in my life and being vulnerable, and then really just opening up in therapy was, I think, the most instrumental for me to be able to move forward through it all.
Thank you. And my next question will be for Gretchen. Gretchen, you have created space for both truth and humor in the aftermath of crisis. What tools or habits do you rely on when things get heavy again? As you said before, that you and Lisa really love using journaling. Maybe you could share some of your tips how to start journaling, how to make it right, or maybe you have some other tips that he could share.
Sure. There's no right or wrong tips for journaling. Once you take what's in your head and get it on paper, it's really refreshing and it's a little cathartic too. It could be like 3 words just to get that thought out of your head. The other thing I do to ground myself, at least 6 months out of the year, I get outside. I get my feet in the grass. I try and ground myself. And a lot like Lisa, therapy was life changing for me. I'm thankful every single day that I'm alive. That call to 988 saved my life. And I remembered that there's a reason why I'm on this earth and that I'm out there just trying to change the world for others of us that suffer from mental health, right? Like find something that brings you joy to help you get out of those moments. For me right now, it's looking outside and looking at all the spring flowers and spending time with my wife, laughing, trying to build my business. Those are things that bring me joy. And I'm always really good now about opening up when things are not good inside me. For years and years and years, I masked all that. But now I'm really open about it and it's super refreshing. Even just going outside and screaming. Let's say you're just so frustrated and things aren't going right. Step outside or go scream in a pillow. There's nothing more healing than screaming. I don't know what it is, but it makes me feel better.
I wanted to add something, G, to what you were talking about in terms of journaling and what a lot of people don't realize, I think. People think that journaling means you have to come up with all of the subject matter that you're writing. It's coming from you. So you have to come up with it. Where do I start? How do I even attempt to do that? What's a good jumping in point? There are so many different journaling prompts that you can get online that will be kind of an entry for you, where you don't even have to think about where your starting point is, because you go online and you do a simple search and you'll have thousands of journaling prompts that will come up, and you find the one that resonates with you. You find the one that you feel is most in line with what you need to share or offload. And someone else is essentially asking you the question. And it's a great place to start if you're looking at a blank page and you're saying, what do I do with this? How do I do this? The other thing that I've done several times, and I find it to be incredibly helpful when I'm feeling a little bit blocked and I'm not really sure where I want to start, is that I'll set a timer. Maybe it will be 3 minutes, maybe it's 5 minutes, and I put my pencil on the page and I just start writing. I just have a complete stream of consciousness. And for that period of time, maybe I'm repeating the same word 27 times, or maybe I'm repeating the same sentence, or maybe it's a little bit nonsensical, but eventually your mind will connect with what it is that it needs to offload, and that will come out. And that random stream of consciousness, I feel like as an exercise, can be incredibly beneficial.
Lisa, to go back to what you were saying about going online and finding journal prompts, I use ChatGPT a lot. What you can do is you can go into ChatGPT and say, "Hey, this is what I'm feeling. I need some journal prompts so I can start writing." And it will list out exactly the journal prompts that you need. And then you can just write to those. For me, it's just a stream of consciousness. I'll just sit down and start writing. It could be nonsensical, and then I may or may not go back and read it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I totally agree with you both. And actually, I started journaling not so much long ago. And I found to myself that at Calmary we have journaling and we have more than 100 prompts. And it's really so easy to start writing when you couldn't figure out how to express your emotions and you really just don't understand it, how to describe it. And it's really helped. And it also helps you to having calendar of your journaling and having ability like to check in like how was your feeling like 1 month ago or 1 week ago, and to have a safe place to keep your journaling. So yeah, I just wanted to add something from my experience as well. And as we have talked about how could we help ourselves, I want to move to other topic about how we could support someone struggling. And my question will be for both of you. Sometimes we know someone's hurting, but will freeze or don't know how to react. What's something we can say to a friend or a loved one that feels supportive, not judgmental?
Think one of the most important things to convey to someone who's feeling like that, regardless of who they are to you as a person, what your relationship is, just tell someone you're here. I'm here. I care about you. I think that's such a powerful message for anyone. Just reminding someone, I am a safe place. You validate that person, what they're feeling, because you're going to hear things that in your mind, maybe you're feeling like that's not worthy of being so anxious or so stressed or to get someone depressed, but it's all relative. What might upset me, what might put me into a depression may not at all affect someone else in the same way. So it's really just showing up in the most non-judgmental, validating way that you can, and just saying, I'm here to listen and I care about you. What's going on? And taking it one step further, we all know people and have encountered people, and if you haven't, you will, people who do actively think about suicide. They're having ideation. Maybe they're expressing that they don't want to be here anymore. And the most important, powerful thing that you can say to that person is, Are you thinking of taking your life? Are you thinking of harming yourself? And I know that for anybody listening to this, they might be cringing and saying, oh, that's language you don't want to use because you don't want to give the person who's struggling any ideas. You don't want to push them toward doing that thing to themselves. But the truth of it is, the reality is, it's been proven time and time again that when you ask someone, and now I'm speaking as a crisis counselor who spends a great deal of my time on a crisis lifeline, we are all trained that by asking someone directly, if you're planning on harming yourself or killing yourself, using that direct language immediately validates the person who's struggling, immediately shows that person they're a safe space. They're someone I can confide in. They're not going to judge me. They're going to support me. So even though that language seems scary, it is exactly the language that you need to be using.
I think the other thing to remember is I saw a clip from Simon Sinek. It's called 8 Minutes, and it's the most powerful YouTube clip I've ever watched. But we can always offer up 8 minutes to somebody. You know what? Make it non-judgmental. If they just want you to sit there and listen to them, sit there and listen to your friend for 8 minutes. I'm telling you, it saves lives. And if somebody comes to you and they're like super depressed, don't try and offer them a suggestion. A lot of times we just want to get what's on our chest off of our chest. That's why I have a therapist, right? Because it's somebody that's got a vested interest in just me and doesn't bring in all the external stuff. And just be kind. You absolutely have zero idea what's going on in people's heads. And you know the world is really hard right now. So by just holding space for somebody and maybe not even speaking, but just listening, that's worth everything that you put into it.
Absolutely right. And I'm also curious about what are the well-meaning phrases we should avoid because they can unintentionally do more harm than good because someone really wants to talk to someone when they like feeling they're not feeling okay, but unintentionally they could start the dialogue that could harm someone.
Yeah, there are lots of things out there that should not be said. Should not be said to someone who's grieving, should not be said to someone who is struggling, that are immediately invalidating. Something that comes to mind for me is saying, you have so much to live for. Why are you thinking about taking your life? You have so much to live for. Don't say that. Telling someone it's not that bad. Whatever it is that you're going through, it's not that bad. Don't ever say that to someone who is struggling. It can feel so unbelievably invalidating. Just try listening. Like Gretchen said, just listen before you actually speak, because if you're saying something that's somehow invalidating, that's where you're going to make the situation potentially worse.
Or telling somebody to suck it up. Like, no, don't ever tell somebody that you think is struggling to suck it up, or that be thankful for everything you have because there's so many people out there that don't have what you have. Just listen. Maybe don't open your mouth. Just listen. If you don't have anything nice to say, anything productive to say, don't say anything at all because it's hurtful and we're already hurting. We don't need that additional dialogue to make us feel even worse than we already do.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with you. And I want you to talk about resilience and what it really looks like. So people often think that resilience meaning like being strong or something like that. But what does real resilience look like when you're still in pain for both of you? And maybe how can someone begin to rebuild their sense of resilience?
I mean, for me, resilience can look like being in pain and crying in the shower, for instance. Going in the shower and letting it all out and crying, and then showing up at your desk for work. It means allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel, and then being able to cycle through that and move on and continue on, or give yourself a pause, or seek the help that you need. Resilience to me means something has impacted you in a negative way. Maybe it was a decision, maybe it was a conversation, maybe it was a relationship, and maybe something didn't work out the way that you wanted to. And you're taking that and internalizing that as a learning, and you're moving forward. You're allowing yourself to move forward and to incorporate that into whatever decisions you make next. Yeah, okay, there's a strength aspect to it, but I don't even think about resilience in that standard way as meaning strong, quote unquote. I really think it just means learning from your mistakes and learning how to take those and make better decisions and move forward in a more positive way. That's what it means to me.
And for me, it's reframing the negative. When I start negative self-talk, I try and turn that around. What are the things that are going good in my life? For me, is I keep getting up every day. I keep brushing myself off. And I'm super vulnerable about what happened with me because every time I open up and tell my story, I unlock somebody else's prison. The more we share our stories, the more we talk about this, the more we remove the stigma. I think one of the problems that we have in society is that like suicide is such a bad word. And anytime somebody brings that up, they curl into a corner and don't want to talk about it. But when you're talking about yourself and you want to stay resilient, remember where you were and where you are now. Take the time to be kind to yourself. Say nice things to yourself. Get out and enjoy some nature. That helps you to like keep your focus on the things that are important.
Thank you. That's great. And that will be my last question for both of you. If you could imagine that someone listening to this episode in really, really dark place, thinking, I just don't know if I can do this anymore, what's one thing that you want them to remember right now?
I think what would feel most important to me to share is no matter how you're feeling right now, whether you're feeling hopeless or whether you're grieving or whether you're struggling, the way that you feel right now is not always the way that you're going to feel. We get trapped in these narratives and in these thought loops, and we get isolated in our own minds, and we don't recognize that there is another side to whatever it is that we're feeling. So these really, really hard moments that you might be in right now, anybody listening who's in a really hard moment, this moment will eventually pass, especially when you remember that there are people that you can reach out to. You do have support systems in your corner, even if you don't necessarily have a spouse or a partner or a community. People tend to think, well, if I don't have those things, I'm alone. There's no one to help me. That's not true. You do have someone. You always have a crisis lifeline. Like, for instance, the 988 crisis lifeline that Gretchen and I talk so much about. Those are the people you can call. So when you're feeling low, just remember, letting people around you know how you're feeling and expressing that allows you to get the help that you need when you need it most.
100%. Not talking to anybody, it doesn't allow anybody to help you. Also, remember that you're enough and that you are loved and you are wanted in this world. And like Lisa said, this is temporary. And by seeking help, they will help you find those steps to get from the next minute to the next hour to the next day. I mean, I did it. It wasn't easy. It's been 2 years of really hard therapy, but I wake up every day and I'm so grateful to be alive.
Thank you for sharing such a powerful and emotional thoughts and words of supporting someone, and it's really important sometimes to hear that from different channels to be heard. And I'm really grateful for having you both today and for hosting this event, to have ability to ask you such an interesting questions and receiving such a powerful answers. And I'm so grateful for analyzing that information and for being here. Thank you for joining Calmary, and we are looking forward to see you next time.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.